Okay, welcome to video number 2. First thing we're going to do now is, because you're probably still in the same lesson, you're going to save just by clicking on this little disk, floppy disk up at the top left. Okay, once you've clicked on that, that's it saved. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to go back into 3D model pane. Now, I didn't really talk you through this very much, but you should have been able to follow the previous video. In here is where you can turn everything. This is where all of your 3D controls are. Okay. So the next tool really that we're going to use is this fillet, and what we're going to do is zoom into each of the corners. Alright, so I'm going to put a fillet on here. Now, without me describing what is happening there, you should be able to have an understanding, okay, just by clicking on it. And really that's how you learn how to use most of the tools in this software, is play around with them, have a go, and see if you can figure out what they do. In this case, it's clearly rounding each of the corners off. Alright, and we'll show you how to control that fillet as well just in a second. So you can see that I've just done all 4 corners, and I'm going to zoom back out again. Now, in our drawing, it tells us that the corner radius is actually 3mm, and down here is where you can control that. Again, play around with these different functions like setbacks, variables, edge fillets, all this, have a play around with it. In here is where we're typing in our 3mm. So press 3, press apply, and then that's it. Okay. Now, what we've got is a very basic PCB. We need to now populate it. Okay. So to add parts to this, okay, without being overly accurate, in terms of having to draw each element of each of the sides, we're mainly looking to make sure that when we place our PCB into its final assembly, that all of the components will show through the sides. Okay, so that's what we're looking for, just to place each of the components that are of utmost importance. So things like, we'll click on the rectangle tool or any of the sketch tools and click on a surface that you want to draw on. In this case, I'm drawing on the top here. Okay, now looking at the PCB on the right hand side over here, I know that I'm going to have 3 boxes, 2 USBs here, another 2 USBs in here, and then your line in is in here as well. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to worry about is the 2 USB ports sockets. Alright, so one of them is going to be around about here somewhere. Now notice the way I'm saying here somewhere. Alright, because it's not vitally important exactly where it goes just at this moment in time. Alright, the dimensions of that, I know that it's going to be 15 across there. I'll double check now and I'll make sure that my dimension, going back the way, is 17. Okay, so press the tab button again on my keyboard, type in 17, press enter. Right, now where exactly does that need to be? Alright, so from the drawing that I've got, I know that the center point of this needs to be 47 from this baseline. So I've clicked on the dimension tool up here, I've clicked on the center of this rectangular box, and I've clicked on this bottom line. Now I'm dragging it out and I'm going to click out here anywhere. I type in 47, that's what it needs to be, press enter. Okay, now then, how far out does it go over the edge of the PCB? And the answer for that is 2mm. So I know that the spacing needs to be from there to there to enter. Now what I'm going to do is copy. I'm going to copy the exact same rectangle with all of the same dimensions. Right? I'm going to click and specify a base point, and I'm going to select here. Drag it down, and I know it's going to be in line with it, but I don't know exactly what the spacing are between them. So I'm just going to drop it here anywhere. Notice the way I didn't drop it specifically on the horizontal crossplane here. okay? And the reason for that is that can throw up a problem later if it's sitting on there and you want to drive a dimension. So driving a dimension is what we've been doing so far, is by clicking here and saying I need this dimension to be a set number. If it's sitting on that line, you've automatically constrained it to that line, which won't allow it to move anywhere else. So make sure you don't click for that to be sitting on that line. Now the spacing in between those two pieces there is 5 millimeters. Okay, that's our two USBs. The next part now is going to be our line in, and I know that the spacing between that and our last PCB is about 4 millimeters. Okay, so again, I'm going to copy this here whole thing. Base point is there. I'm going to drag it down to around about here somewhere. I know that it's in line. Looking at the line is vertical. I'm just going to click there anywhere at all and press escape on my keyboard. Gets me out of that task. Now, I've got this 17 millimeters long, and if you actually look at the Raspberry Pi, it's so much longer than that, okay? It's actually 21 millimeters long in total. What I'll do is I will double click on the 17 and make that 21, press enter. Now, I clicked on the wrong one, haven't I? So, by pure accident, what I can do now to rectify that very quickly is go Control Z. Right, so Control on your keyboard and Z is undo, and you'll find that's the same for most software. You double click on the 17 down here this time and change that to 21 and press enter. Notice the way that it stayed 2 millimeters consistently the whole way down. Yep. So we go 3D model, and we're going to click on extrude. You're going to select now all of the profiles that you want to make 3D. Now we're learning more about these tools, right? So profile is the boundary. Okay, we've got one boundary there, one boundary there, and one boundary there. The height is actually 16, so 1/6. Alright, now let's just have a look at what this here software can do. So we can cut by clicking on cut. It means that it's going to cut it through the material. Right, so you can cut through the material like that. So you can cut out those gaps. Right, or we can join or add material. And you'll also notice that I've changed the direction, so I can change direction of which way it's going to go by clicking on these things. Alright, now this one's an interesting one, and it's one that you should really use quite a lot. Symmetric basically means that you use this surface here to draw on in the first place. Okay, there's a thickness there of 1 millimeter, and you have, if you want it to extrude equally on both sides. Now it's going both sides of that, where that plane there is there. So in actual fact, because this here is going to be 16, it will be 8 above that line, and below this bottom line down here will actually be 7. That should make sense. Okay, anyway, in the case of what we're doing, it's going to go above the line, and it's going to go above by 16 millimeters. I'll press OK, and I rotate this around now to have a lovely look at it. That's as detailed as we're going to get in this part of that drawing. Now, one thing I have forgotten to do, which is good, because it allows you, and it allows me to show you another tool, is over here on the left hand side. You've done your sketch, you've turned it 3D, and now you're, oh, I need to change something in my sketch. On the left hand side, this is where all of your drawing parts have all been done. So that's your first drawing and your first extrusion. This is the fillets on the corners, and this is your last extrusion, okay? So you should be able to just hover over those, and it should be able to actually tell you that as well by highlighting them. So let's have a look. Extrusion number 1 is down the bottom. Fillet is showing you the corners. Extrusion 2 is showing you the last thing that we're just after doing. Now, if I click on the arrow, it'll show you the sketch that we've just done. If you right click on the sketch and go to edit sketch, right, now we're back into the sketch and we can change things. So we want to change the spacing between there and there. and the spacing in there should be, let me just double check here, 4 millimeters. Press OK and go to, oh sorry, that's a wee bit much by the looks of it. Let's turn it back by about 3. Now you can double check these measurements on your own drawings. Okay, and we'll click on Finish Sketch. I see what's going on now. Right, Finish Sketch. Right, now then, so it's automatically updated those. Now you'll also notice that this one here is slightly lower than the other two. So I'll need to go Edit Feature. Right, select Profiles. And I don't want to select that one now. Okay, so what I've done there is pressed Shift on my keyboard, clicked on that profile, going to click on OK. Right, it's only done those two. So how am I going to get this last one here done? Well, it's like building blocks. We have to do each one individually. So to save time, I'm going to go Edit Sketch, Control A, or draw a box around everything that's in here. All right. Control C, copy. Finish that sketch. Say I want to draw another sketch on this surface. Go Control V. See now, because I've went Control C and Control V, it's actually aligned it to the center point. Okay, so it's in the correct spot now. So when I go to 3D Model and go to Extrude, I can select this one, and I can say that that one needs to be 13.5 millimeters high. Press OK, and there we go. Alright, now let's press save, and we'll call it a day for this part of the video, and we'll move on to the next part in the next video. Okay.